Alrighty, what's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody had a lovely day. And with that being said, get into the TA. All right, so I'm going to say it, guys. I do think we have a short-term bottom in place as of today. Of course, it can be faded, but we did get these marginal lows on the indices here that did end up creating the bullish divergence we were pointing out before we ended up falling down here. It was over here when we pointed this out. If you are to take out the low, you are just going to most likely put in a marginal lower low, have a higher high over higher low over here on the daily RSIs across the board, and you're going to have a bunch of bullish divergences as everybody is thinking the market's going to be going lower. Now, of course, the market can fade. You know, we don't really have any, bullish reversal yet. We don't have structure here for a bullish reversal. Let's, get that out in front of us here. We don't. This today's move, okay, maybe we continue a little higher tomorrow, but it very well can turn into just the upper wick of a bearish weekly candlestick here. So don't get too ahead of yourself. I personally do think we probably, put in that short-term bottom today as everyone's thinking, market's going lower, it's going to crash for that, next super serious leg lower, even though we just had this and we now have these daily bullish divergences here on the RSIs. So, it can go lower like everyone else is thinking, but, what I think is more likely is we're probably going to continue this bounce into Wednesday. All right, so we're going to come over here to VIX. I'm going to do my best to keep this video under 10 minutes here. We're at the 2-minute mark just about. VIX, typically when you get the gap up like that and fade and you don't recover, something like this, it goes typically something like that where you continue fading. It doesn't always have to be like that, but, go look back. We're probably going to, continue lower here on VIX tomorrow and continue higher over there on SPY and QQ tomorrow. Again, doesn't have to be the case. But you got that exact thing happening over here as well. You gapped up and then you faded for the close and then you continue lower the following 2 trading sessions. So again, doesn't have to happen, but typically that is what I see happen when we get this exact same condition happening. And yeah, like, something like that. All right, you gapped up over here. Everyone's like, oh, the market's going to fall off the cliff. And then, oh, what happens? The indices bounce back, from marginally new lows. $10 low over here on QQQ. SPY was clear as day, the one with the strength today. It only did make, a $2.7 move lower this morning before then reversing up for a $10 to $12 move. All right, congrats if you did end up catching this move over here. SPY was certainly stronger over here. And right around here, I was like, okay, this thing's probably about a, 15-minute chart is starting to turn around here. We know very well this thing, could snap back since it's been oversold for so long. And then you had the 4-hour RSI down here at 22. And I was like, yeah, it's probably at least going to get that dead cat bounce like we had over here. And, it didn't have to be anything crazy. But, even over here, you got these 1.7% bounces, 2%. Down here, you got that 2% bounce. Specifically over here on QQQ, 4-hour RSI, it was down here at 22. I was just looking over here. On all of these, you got a bounce right here, you got a bounce right here, you got a bounce here, bounce here, bounce here. On all of these, okay? On all of these bounces, except for right here. Today would have been the smallest bounce if we were just to hit it with this little, right over here. We started selling at some point today. Yeah, somewhere down here. So, if this was going to be it, it was not likely. This was literally the smallest bounce we have gotten so far. It would have been like I think it was at a 1.7% bounce. Whereas over here, you got like at least 2% bounces. All right, so 2% over there. Over here, you end up, hitting it with a 3% bounce. Over here from the low, get that low right, 3.2% bounce. All right, from the here. From the low, 2.6% bounce. So, it was likely that we were going to bounce today. The question is this just going to be a dead cat bounce before going lower? That really is the question. I do just, want to point out what this is over here, right? So these are my new EMA clouds over here. I follow along with the moving averages all the time, and I had the bright idea on Friday to just put them into an EMA cloud. All right, so we have that where when I refer to them in the video, I'm going to refer to them as short-term moving averages. You're probably still going to hear me use that term, or EMA cloud, whatever we're talking about. We're just referring to this. All right. Notice how you got rejection, 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 and then till you finally started getting above there. All right. You started seeing this thing curl up over here, and then you built out a base, and you launched off that thing, and then you fell flat on your face. So if you can get above this level over here at 476.28, I think that's when things really would start to become more clear. All right. So that is a key level over here. That's, bringing some reactions right over there. It was this high right there. All right. You can see price dancing around it. Get above there, and, 4-hour time frame, you're going to start seeing this thing look more like an actual bounce, like a bottoming process here, more than just a dead cat bounce. All right. But until proven otherwise, all right, we have April 2nd. If we bounce straight into that event and we get a decent sized bounce, who's to say, tariff news coming back? Like, we've been selling off the news of the tariffs. Well, what about the actual event? If we rally into it, that opens the door to, a sell the news event. So we're going to have to see the reaction to that. But I think today did secure, 1 to 2 days of, we're probably not going to be touching these lows coming back down there. And like I pointed out on VIX, typically we see the next day fade as well. We get that second day fade, happen on, like we have one right here. You gapped up, you couldn't hold it. All right. And the next day you continue lower. The next day after that, second trading session after that, that was when you had a really big fade over here on the VIX. Well, you had it right here, gap up, couldn't hold it. Next day was a big, second day fade. You had the same thing over here, gapped up, couldn't hold it. 2 to 3 days down the line, you're still fading. All right. So, just be open to that possibility. What I just pointed out, this is 1, 2, 3 times you gapped up like that, like pretty much what we got today. All right. And you faded off them. So we're probably going to do that over here on VIX. I am going to try and keep this video under 10 minutes. So I'm just going to quickly run through the levels over here on SPY and QQQ. All right. Resistance, 560.71. Get above today. It's high at 560.71. We're going to be talking 566.27. Above there, 570.57. And then 576.41. Probably not going to be coming up here. And if we do come up here over the next few trading sessions, we probably do have that larger bottoming process being in place where I talked about in the week. I think it was the weekly update. It was one of last week's videos, if not the weekly update. I put some time into this, where we could actually, just base out for like 1 to 2 months here and, just really drive everyone nuts. But that's what I was saying at the beginning of the video. We don't really have the structure here on the weekly time frame for a bottom, unless you're going to be taking out this high over here at 576.41. So, until proven otherwise, expect a dead cat bounce here. Things still aren't, looking the best over there. And then you come over here to BTC. I'm not saying BTC is going to dictate where the market's going. You clearly can see, bearish breakdown, and you're rejecting the short-term moving averages there. And we could see over here on the weekly time frame, you reject the weekly moving averages here as well, the 21 EMA, which is that white line. That's not looking, the best over here. And Bitcoin's going to be continuing back down. I doubt we're going to see these things could just rocket. All right. So, be open to anything over here. Follow the levels for the time being. We're bullish. Next 1 to 2 trading sessions, we're probably not going to be revisiting these lows. We'll see what happens on April 2nd. Okay. Coming back over here to SPY, though, I know I went over resistance. We'll just run through it one more time. 560.71, above there, 566.27, 570.57, then 576.41, which is a very big level. Support, 558.03, 555.07. All right, which, that was kind of a big spot today. I was thinking you were going to reject there. You did not end up rejecting there, and you went straight up over into it, but you could see you were basing out underneath it. Got to this point, got to be right here, all right? Then I was saying, hey, we're probably about to get another few dollars pop over here on SPY and QQQ. I think I was calling for a $2 pop. We didn't end up getting that, and, it looks pretty flawless over here on QQQ as well. Key thing was, right here, you were just basing. You were getting ready for something over here. But, trend move all day over here. You did end up, just sweeping this level over here this morning, just like we were talking about. We're going to come down to some support levels. We're going to, make the marginal low, and we're going to have the daily bullish divergence. And now you have the RSI starting to curl up. So tomorrow is going to be very important. If we were to gap down and it opens down here, it opens up the possibility to, I'll just point out where we had a day like this. Right over here, where you have this, you have this bullish reversal candlestick right here, 2-day bullish reversal setup, and then boom, you gap down towards the low the next day. You found sellers on, the opening bounce, it looks like, and then you sold down to a new low. All right, so if we gap down you know, under, we're going to say 463 over here on the Qs, that opens up that scenario, and then we can continue lower. And what I talked about over here with this just turning into a upper weekly wick for this week's candle, it can become a reality. So just keep these things in mind, guys. Just keep it in mind. We're in a tricky market right now, and you know, you could trade intraday and stuff like that, but holding overnight until we have clarity, I'm just going to say right now, all right, it's a tricky game. I'm telling you from experience, it is a tricky game. And, you know, I'm sure if you've been trading this market for a little while now, you know, even over here, like none of these reversals held over here. All right. The next day you just got crapped on. So we don't know what's going to happen over here. But again, we know everybody is very bearish and how the VIX is looking. So we probably do, you know, secure another 1 to 2 days of at least not falling flat in our face over here. Okay. But you know the levels that you're paying attention to. And that's really all you need. Underneath 55507, you have 549.15. And then underneath there, you have 539.44 down here. That is the low from over there. Coming over here to QQ, what are the levels you're paying attention to over here? We'll come down to the hourly time frame for this one. All right, so you're flipping. You found sellers in your 467 to 469 zone up here, but as you can see, you're flipping it over there. It looks like we want to continue higher over here. Resistance going to be 470.40, 472.41, and then we have 476.28 above there. Okay, and then 480.25. I don't know how high we're gonna. Are we gonna get another crazy move tomorrow? Like, you know, we got a pretty insane move today, $12 move. Are we gonna get the same tomorrow and find ourselves a 480? Who freaking knows in this market? Who knows? All right, but you know the levels that you're paying attention to. They will be respected. You can get some solid trades off of them, and you know, follow along on the smaller time frames for your specific entries and exits. Over here, all right, on the downside, we have 467 as support. Underneath there, we're really just going to be talking 459.17 again. You want to be holding that. All right, if I had to pick something out from today, we're going to go with 464.27. That is where we would be paying attention to. Okay, so underneath 467.01, you watch 464.27, and then 159, or not 159, 459.17. All right, I'm trying to run through it quick, and I think it's taking me longer to try and run through it quick than it is, you know, run through things normally. All right, but that's QQ over there. We'll just go over IWM real quick. See here on the daily time frame, same thing. Have the daily bullish divergence now. All 4 indices have this. So if we could get some fall through the coming days, this could turn into, you know, an actual bottoming process here. And, you know, bottoms, guys, they're not created when everybody thinks bottoms are, you know, being put in. They're created when everybody thinks the market's going lower and the market humbles a lot of people one side, and then boom, that's a bottoming process for you. Okay, it's like over there, all right? Oh, you have this range. You slightly broke down from it. Oh, you've had this range. You're building out for 2-3 weeks. You broke down from it. 3 weeks there, you broke down. Well, it was a bear trap over there, all right? That's how bottoms are put in. It's when everybody thinks on one side, all right? And a lot of people were bearish. And now, probably a lot of people, if we get some fall through the next coming days, people are going to flip bullish. We'll see what happens. All right, but IWM resistance 199.34, 201.99, 202.43, and 203.75. All right, come down over here to DIA. You're watching 423.14 above there. You're gonna have the previous high, but you know that's pretty bullish for the overall market. If you could take out this high over here, 428.14, I'm gonna set an alert for that one. Actually, that would be a good level to take out for the overall market, and then 431.42 above there. All right, now we're going to very quickly just run through the Mag 7 stocks. That's what I got for you guys today. Tesla, you know, we got like this kind of weak bull look across the board. I'm like, look at this weekly chart. This is not something that looks like a bottom would be put in. This looks like something that's going to take out this, come down here, and then maybe then we have like, you know, some more structure being put in. That's what it looks like to me. Just being honest on that one, okay? It does not look good, though. Like, you know, this just looks weak. You have island. Doesn't look good. All right. But you did find buyers today. 243.36. That's today's low. You take out that, you have the chance of coming back down to these lows. From there, probably going to hit that 212.11 support. All right. And that could be a quick move down. But on the upside, guys, as long as 251.84 holds, you're going to be watching the upside. All right, which will be 260.79 above there, 271, and above there 288.20. Get back up here, probably you're going to push 300 and secure 326.59 in the bag. All right, Apple, what do we got going on over here? Really doesn't look all that bad. Does not look all that bad. And let me just fix something real quick, okay? bothering me. Maybe it was bothering you too. There we go. Now we don't have an extra line there. We have an extra line there. No, we don't. Okay, we're all good now. All right, pushed right back up, and he made a new high, guys, above 225 today. This thing is definitely the one showing the strength of the Mag 7 stocks right now. NVIDIA also had quite a bit of a move there, but Apple, we can clear as they see. You know, this thing wants to lead. You know, over here on the weekly time frame, I'm still going to argue, you know, this isn't the most sound looking chart over here, which is why I say wait until the middle of the week, that Wednesday date, guys. All right, the second, I know the market's been selling off it. What's about to happen when the market actually gets the news that it's been trying to price in? We're going to have to see. All right. But, you know, over here in Apple above 225.02, you got 230.20 and then 237.23. And then on the downside, we'll come down to the hourly time frame. And you could see right here, we have 221.02. All right. Key breakout level there into the end of day squeeze you had going on. All right. Underneath 221.02, you have 218.76 and then 215.22. Break 215.22, 210 incoming. All right, that's Apple. Coming over here to Microsoft. Another one of these, you know, gap down, putting the hammer candlestick off of nice volume here. Got the bullish divergence in there on the daily RSI. It's actually like a, you know, quadruple bullish divergence going on here. You know, triple, quadruple bullish divergence, whatever we got. We got something big going on here. And I think we're probably going to get a little bit more bounce off of the looks we have, guys. All right. Upside resistance, 376.91, 381.10, 384.64, and 387.92. Support, guys, you're just watching 366.50. But if that gives up, you know, timber, you don't really have much. All right. But it's probably going to find buyers around here in this 360 to 366.50 area. All right. That's Microsoft. Amazon, same exact look as Microsoft. Okay. Resistance 190.88, 195.75, and 211.20. Support 185.23. Found buyers off there today, 185.23, and then 180.25 if that fades, which I don't think it's going to fade. You know, we again have another bullish divergence here on the daily RSI. What do we got over on Goog, guys? Oh, do I need to say it again? We have a bullish divergence on the daily RSI. So that is sitting there present as well. On the weekly time frame, where is the RSI? It's right around the spot where it bottomed out over here. And where it bottomed out over here in your bear market, both times where you just, you know, again, I pointed out the other day, we're not going to be focusing on the sky for the time being. All right. We just, you know, if it's going to perform like this, best not to even touch it. But it is a part of the overall market there. Big component there. And again, we got the daily bullish divergence there with that gap down hammer look to you. Looks like it's going to continue. 156.60 is resistance above there, 158.80, 163.24, and then 168.46. Support is going to be 152.30 where you found buyers today off the morning dip. All right. And underneath there, 148.20. Meta, guys, we did end up coming down here to, you know, 200 sitting somewhere. I don't have it on the chart right now. But, you know, somewhere over here, we're pushing back up into it. We're going to have to see how this goes. Resistance, guys, above 580. We're talking 598 and then 608.86. On the downside, we're talking 570 as your support. Underneath there, you're going to have today's low, which at that point, if you come back down there, you're just probably going to test 550. All right, so that's Meta. And NVIDIA, the king, guys. It didn't want to fade today. You had, you know, this double bottom kind of look to you going on here. I don't know if it's going to hold. What I can tell you over here is the daily RSI. It came down to that spot I mentioned in the weekly video there. Guys, you come down to that 36 to 37 spot on the daily RSI, expect it to keep bouncing, okay? Even if it's not the straight 10% bounce we look for, it's probably still going to be something close to it. And in just today, you were down there, and from the open, you're up $6. All right, that's over a 5% move from, you know, open to high. These are the types of reactions that I just know over the past 2 years plus 2+ years here you've gotten. Well, the daily RSI has been right around that 36 to 37 mark. I just know for a fact that is what the back testing has showed, and that is likely to continue until proven otherwise. All right, now moving over here to the chips, guys. Oh, again, we have that gap down hammer kind of look with the bullish divergences all over these daily RSIs, guys. Every ticker we're going over has a bullish divergence on the daily RSI. INTC, except for INTC, came down to this heavily traded zone. We pointed out if you weren't to hold 2334, you're coming down over here to the zone. Probably going to hold the 2150 to 22 zone. Low of the day, 2175. Print that hammer, probably going to retest 2334. We'll see if it can get back above there over the coming trading sessions. Okay, so that's INTC. Avgo, all right, again, something with the bullish divergence here on the daily RSI, and you also have the gap down hammer. These typically aren't just going to be things we fade. We'll see what happens there. You faded something similar over here, but at the end of the day, you did end up gapping up the next day, so you did go higher. So we'll probably go a little, $3-4 higher if we're going to get that scenario. But we have this look across the board. It's probably not going to get faded, and maybe it does. I'm not telling anyone to flip, bullish, but I'm definitely telling you right now, we probably do. Odds just are we have a short-term bottom in place that's going to be respected for a little bit, and until we see signs of that waning, then there's going to be that. All right, I literally showed you here on the 4-hour time frame. 21 EMA. All right, SPY and QQ, you just kept rejecting this zone over here. All right, and this is between the 5 and the 21 EMA here on the 4-hour time frame. If you can get above the 21, you're probably going to start up a bigger bounce. And specifically, I was showing you guys this over here on QQ. Whole time you just rejected, and you were finding buyers. Once let's look at it this way. You reclaimed it, you found buyers off there. All right, so when price is actually reversing, you're probably also going to get this opportunity, which is going to be the pullback entry. Okay, so price is to get over here. We talked about it, 476.28, get above there, and good things for the market can happen. Okay, from that point, you're probably getting a bit more than just a dead cat bounce before going lower there. You're probably actually building out a range here or a bottoming process that could take some time. All right, so if you get above 476.28, expect it to keep going a little higher in the short term, but then we're probably going to pull back at some point and test this 4-hour 21 EMA, which would look something like this. It either, is going to do it off of 480 or it would do off of 476.28 over here. And that would provide your long entry for the move up to, if you get that entry, that's a $9 move. We're talking 476 all the way up to 485.84. So 486, almost $10 move, and potentially up to 494 back at that 200 daily moving average here where we rejected. All right, so that's the game plan in the short term over here on QQ. Just got to see where you move. All right, but I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll just point out over here on TSM, everything has this very similar look to it with the gap down and reversal off the bullish divergences here in the golden pocket here from this whole move up. It's really not looking all that bad, but again on these weekly charts, this just isn't structure that I would imagine we're going to bottom out. We're going to have to see it prove itself, which TSM, you got to break above 188. That's going to take, probably a few weeks to actually get done. So don't expect anything for the short term. Bitcoin, I would say don't focus on Bitcoin over the broad market. It's not showing the strength with NASDAQ, with what it just did, with how it closed. Bitcoin is certainly showing the weakness, which means MSTR over here. I know you got the bounce with the broad market today, but if Bitcoin shows the weakness as the market is, trading flat, then this thing is going to have that, extra downside pressure on it. And Coinbase, this is the one that's, weak over here, but it does have this look over here with the triple bullish divergence. So these are reasons, guys. I do think we probably put in a short-term bottom today that's going to be respected for a little while. We're going to have to see what happens and how we close out this week. If we close out the week real bullishly, all right, and we close up near the highs and, somehow we see the week close all the way up here, 480 or above, all it takes is one bullish week after that, take out this high, get above this zone, and yeah, we could start looking at, swing longs again. But for the time being, expect rejection on this. This can all be wiped pretty quick. I don't think it is because of what I just showed you in this video. I very clearly made my bias clear. All right, I think we're going to, hold this low that we just put in for a little bit here. All right, but I'll keep you guys posted as we go. If you do want intraday updates and you want just to come trade with me on the 5-minute, 15-minute time frame, I trade NASDAQ futures and just options trading. If you want to do that, the link will be down below. And other than that, guys, you can go find me on Twitter. That link is also going to be down below. I appreciate you guys, appreciate your support. And I hope you guys are going to keep killing it in this volatile market there, or at least you are going to be surviving out there, which that is a win at the end of the day, guys. If you're not losing your ass in this market, that is a dub. All right. That means when the market does actually give you some easier price action to go off of, and your old system that was working, well, it's probably going to start working eventually. If you can just hold off. All right. Just sit on your hands until then. All right. Then you're going to be in the clear. So, whether you're thriving or surviving, they're both a win. Keep that in mind. Catch y'all in the next one. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and peace.